So this is the Ortur LaserMaster 3 and it's brand new. And rather than do a typical unboxing and assembly and testing video, what I wanted to do is something a little bit different. And that's go head to head with some other 10-watt lasers. So if you're interested in finding out which laser is actually the best 10-watt laser, then stick around. Now, if you've been paying attention to the diode laser space, then you know it seems like every week there's a new laser released. And if you're in the market to buy one, you look at this as a fantastic opportunity to have endless choice. Except when you actually look at these lasers, almost all of them are made from 2020 aluminum extrusion off the shelf. And to be polite, they're really just kind of ugly. They look like, you know, a piece of machinery built out of scrap parts. So Ortur has been relying on the LaserMaster 2 Pro for the longest time, and it certainly suffers from some of this visual appeal. So it was quite a treat when they sent me this LaserMaster 3. I was totally surprised actually when I opened the box and looked at this laser, and it just looks gorgeous. It looks like an appliance. It looks like the kind of thing I would have sitting on my desk beside me. And when people walk into my shop, they go, wow, that thing looks awesome. What is that? So this is hopefully the direction we're headed in the diode laser space, is to make lasers that, you know, look attractive as well as being functional. So what I want to do in this video is do a bit of a flyover of the LaserMaster 3 and highlight some of these design details, but also talk about some of the new features that this laser has that aren't in the LaserMaster 2 Pro or even in most lasers. So we'll get going on that, but after that, what I'm going to do with Ortur's permission is I'm going to go head to head on this laser with the XTOOL D1. And the way I plan to do that is create a number of projects in Lightburn to really test engraving and cutting. And the plan is to use exactly the same piece of material for both lasers using the same settings in Lightburn. Then just bring these results forward and do a side-by-side comparison and come out at the end and say which one of these lasers is actually the best. Now, keep in mind that the XTOOL D1 is, you know, roughly $700 to $1,000. This LaserMaster 3 is quite a bit cheaper. So, you know, we've got price going on the LaserMaster 3 side already, but let's see if it can compete with the XTOOL D1. All right, so let's take a look at the LaserMaster 3. We've got the power and USB nicely set on the side so they're out of the way. All of the controls that you use on a regular basis, the reset, the key lock, which is nice, and the emergency stop up on top. Notice the rails are all nice custom extrusion, and when we get to the laser head, it's a very, you can see I'm just using one hand here because I'm holding the camera in the other. Setting the focus is really, really simple because it's right in the front and you can just pop it down. It's a bit like the XTools. Up on top we have the power and the air hose going in. And towards the back here, nice feature, they've added the rotary connector in the back rather than trying to fish underneath the laser itself. So a very nice laser. Now let's look at a couple of really unique features of the LaserMaster 3. So the first one you'll notice is there are no limit switches. It uses trinamic drivers in its controller. So what it's really doing is when the laser gets to a resistance point, it assumes that's the end of the travel. And that's really nice because you get effectively limit switches at both ends. And you don't really ever have to worry about anything. There's no switches to get dirty or anything like that. So it's a pretty awesome feature actually. Now the next thing to talk about is the air assist, and this laser certainly has it. Now the nice design feature here is the air assist hose actually connects through the top of the laser module. So there's no hoses sticking out around the outside. There's no attachment to the nozzle down below. You just hook the tube at the top and you can see it there. And the air passes through the laser module, down through the nozzle actually, right to the work, which is, again, just a really nice feature. So kudos to Ortur for paying some pretty serious attention to design here. All right, so the last significant feature to talk about here is Ortur's application for your phone. And what that allows you to do is remotely connect to the phone and just do some simple jobs. So if you're just a newbie and maybe this is your first laser, you can just quickly connect, and the way you do that is you run the app, and the first thing you need to do is connect, and you can see it discovered my LaserMaster 3 sitting there. And at that point, I can just choose that laser, and it's basically configured. And from there, then you can see I have control of the laser itself, so I can move the laser head around. But I can also do other things. I can certainly select from their clip art library, or I can upload my own image. And once you select that, you can see it. You can scale. You can change a bunch of aspects of the image. And when you're ready, you can just hit the start button, and you're good to go. Now, I'd be remiss in my duties if I didn't tell you about some of the challenges with the mobile app. You can see my phone is sitting literally on top of my laser, and it's over Wi-Fi, and the antenna is about 6 inches away. So it was shocking to me that periodically when I tried to do something, I was getting these laser disconnected errors, and I'd have to reconnect, and it was happening quite often. I don't think that's a major issue. It's just, it's software ultimately, and I'm sure Ortur will fix some of these problems in future firmware updates, but it is something to be aware of, especially since this feature is targeted at new users. I personally wouldn't use the mobile feature myself because I'm just permanently connected to Lightburn, but it is a nice feature, and these strange errors were a little mystifying to me. Now, there'd be no point in doing a review of any laser unless you saw some results. And what I mentioned at the beginning of the video is I wanted to do a real head-to-head comparison with what I interpret is the market leader, the XTOOL D1, and Ortur was favorable with that. Again, they're pretty confident that their laser is good, and we'll certainly find out here. Now, what I wanted to do was create simple projects in Lightburn and just run the exact same project on each laser. And what I found out the hard way is that the settings are not quite the same no matter what. While the laser modules are both 10 watt, there are significant differences. So for one thing, the laser frequency, the wavelength of the lasers is slightly different by 10 or 15 nanometers. It doesn't sound like a lot, but apparently, it does have some impact on what materials it can engrave. And there's also things like minimum shelf for the power. So where does the laser actually turn on? Is it 0% or is it 20% power? And you'll see some of that in some of the results here, and it'll be a theme you see throughout the results that I did. I tried to do a bunch of different materials, and just to get a feel for both lasers. So with that, let's get looking at these at the outputs here. All right, here are the results, and this first one on MDF basically tells the whole story for the rest of them. On the OLM3, the LaserMaster 3, you get consistent power from the slowest, highest power up to even in the 10% power range. You can see there are still grayscales showing up here, and there actually is one at the 10% at 18,000. By comparison, the D1 in the 10% column just doesn't show you anything. There's nothing there. There is a bit in the 20% range. Now, I think the reason some of these are looking a little odd is I think I'm hitting the speed cap on the D1, so we're probably not looking at valid results here. But the difference here, or the important significant feature here, is that there is nothing in this 10% column, and you'll see that all the way through. So what I did was, to get started, was I started with some cork coasters, and we'll just show you side by side. So they're both, this is the exact same power and speed on both lasers. The D1 on the image, it drew it. It looks fairly nice, but it's kind of grainy on the shading. By comparison, at 30% power, and these are 0 to 30% ranges, the Marvin looks very, very dark. His brush actually came out nice because you can see the difference in shade there, but it was too dark. So what I did was I chopped the power in half and got a much better image, much more what you'd kind of expect to see. So there's cork, and half the power on the LaserMaster 3 to get the same or slightly better results. Next I did leather, and don't worry about the actual kind of darkness here. I purposely did these light because I wanted to see all of the details, and if you really hit it with power, everything will just turn black. So LaserMaster 3 on the bottom, and power 0 to 30%, and you can see it did a nice job here. All the rock is well defined. The D1, in order to get something even visible, I had to go from 0 to 50%. And, you know, it's there, it's lighter. The detail is very contrasty, again, because the bottom end of the power range is not really turning the laser on. And there's a lot of, I purposely picked this because there's a lot of really light and really dark portions in the photo. So this is a lighthouse very close to my house, actually. So you know, that was the leather. Now here's where things get a little strange. So on the top, believe it or not, there's the output from the XTOOL D1. Again, the settings here were the same, and on the bottom was the LaserMaster 3. And this material it's acrylic, but it's mirrored acrylic, so it's basically a transparent piece of acrylic with mirroring on the back. It's really neat material to work with, because if you look at the LaserMaster one, you get this nice kind of holographic effect on it, so it looks great. The D1, there actually is a lighthouse there. If I can get it in the right light, you can see it. But for some reason, the D1 just does not like this material. And I tried numerous times. All of these tests took me days, by the way. I tried numerous tests with different power settings, and I could just not make it work with this material. And I can only assume that's because the laser frequencies are slightly different. So what I did for fairness was I just used standard black material, black acrylic for the D1. And I also tweaked the power, so rather than going from 0 to 30%, I went from 10%, so I'm not chopping off that whole bottom range where the laser just isn't on, and I upped the top end by 5%. So it did an okay job. I mean, you can certainly see it's a lighthouse, and again, because I chopped off the bottom range, you're starting to get a little more grayscale in here, but it's just not nearly as good. So acrylic, I found myself a nice old cherry board here, and both lasers in this case were 0 to 50% power. I'm trying to do the same, the same power as much as possible. And again, on the LaserMaster 3, these are grayscale images, by the way, in Lightburn, not any kind of image rendering like Stucky or Jarvis. It's actual grayscale. Diode lasers should be able to do that. And on the LaserMaster 3, I mean, honestly, this looks like a photo. Like, this is fantastic. By comparison, the D1, again, the bottom end is not showing up, so you get this very kind of contrasty image. You can see it's a lighthouse, of course, but it's not great. This dark bar, by the way, is well, Steve makes everything, including mistakes. What I did was I didn't invert the image when I put it on the wood here, so it's really that part of the image is what's important here. Anyway, that's cherry. Now the last piece is cutting, and what I did was I took this piece of this solid, fairly dense maple actually, and I cut the 1, 2, 3, 4 on each of these is 1 pass, 2 pass, 3 pass, 4 pass. They're both the same power, and I deliberately underpowered, so I'm not purposely trying to cut through this because what I really wanted to see was the edge cutting. And with 1 pass on the LaserMaster 3, you can see it gets about halfway through and then progressively more. And then by the time it got to 4 passes, it actually cut the piece out, which in some ways shocked me. But by comparison, the D1, it looks like it's cutting all the way through, but I think it's just the beam is spilling over the side when it's cutting. And it's looking like it's cut through, but in reality, the only one that even came close was 4 passes, which is about the same as 3 passes on the LaserMaster 3. So that's cutting. Now, I did have, because the LaserMaster 3 has air assist, I did have air assist on. That's why there's no smoke. No doubt also why it cut better. You can see a bit of smoke spill over here, and it didn't cut. My D1 doesn't have air assist. So anyway, that's cutting, and that's the results. So you saw the results there, and the LaserMaster 3 is consistently better than the D1. It has an added advantage of it's also significantly cheaper, hundreds of dollars cheaper. So it may not be quite as industrial strength as the D1, but where results count, the LaserMaster 3 is king here. There are a couple of things to worry about though. The mobile app, I see where they're going with it, and it's really targeted at new users, but I did have these really weird, annoying connection problems. And in general, my complaint about Wi-Fi, lots of laser companies are starting to put it in, and they're all doing the same thing, which annoys me to no end as a network guy. Rather than just letting me connect it to my network, my local Wi-Fi network, they're providing an access point and I'm connecting to the laser instead. That to me just is annoying. Just, you know, if you're a laser company and you're coming out with Wi-Fi, you will win my heart if you allow me to just connect it to my network so I can get to it from any computer in my wireless network. So, you know, keep that in mind. Anyway, results are there. I still love my XTOOL D1, but I think in this case I may have decided we're just going to be friends because the LaserMaster 3 is by far a superior laser. All I can do is recommend that you go out and buy one. It's cheaper, it's faster, it does better output, and you should really have one. Anyway, with that, we'll wind the video down. As always, I'll put a video up in the corner. Go watch that, and I'll see you over there. And get out there and make your world, and I'll see you next time.